Larcy Lawrence McElroy here with another live session. Tuesday mornings, we're here at 10:15 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time for the general public, of course, but specifically for our West Babylon Public Library folks who, at this time, with the library closed, the classes are suspended. So to give you an opportunity to have a little time doing some things, Tai Chi, Qigong, and related. I'm starting this way this morning because I want to point out that you're going to need a couple of things as this little session unfolds. One, I have a chair behind me that may or may not be necessary we're going to start with a little meditation. Then we're going to do a series of a warm-up sequence that involves adding a little bit of extra activation to the process. And it's designed specifically to use one of these: stability ball, yoga ball, Swiss ball, balance ball, Pilates ball, exercise ball. It has a lot of different names, but you don't really need one. But if you have one in your house, now's the time to go and grab it before the rest starts. As a substitute for that, if you don't have any sort of stability ball, just a nice hand towel that you can hold at arm's length and then separate and pull the towel as you're doing the stretches. So those are the two things that we need. And while we give people a little bit of time to grab those things, then perhaps what I can do to fill a little bit of time before we settle into the meditation is, if you're really sick and tired of singing the birthday song while you wash your hands, there are all sorts of different options. I tend to use, and many of you, if you're in my public classes, you have heard me use the Bene Gesserit mantra from Frank Herbert's Dune. But you start the water, you wet your hands, get your soap in there, and then it's fear is the mind killer. Fear is the little, I was going to start a clock so I know that I absolutely positively have my 20 seconds. So here we go. Fear is the mind killer. Fear is the little death that causes total obliteration. I will face my fear. I'll let it pass over me and through me. And when fear has gone past, I will turn and see its path. Where it has gone, there will be nothing. Only I will remain. 25 seconds. So there you go. Little option. Instead of singing the birthday song, a little fear is the mind killer mantra. So we're going to start with meditation. It's Water Tiger School's Qigong-based meditation. And you have a couple of options. Now, I'm doing this because we normally start almost every public class with this meditation, and most of the studio classes for Water Tiger School. You should still be doing this. You do not need me to lead you in meditation. However, here's an opportunity. Our basic Qigong-based meditation is standing. However, we always say standing meditation can take whatever's not 100% with you and turn up the volume. So for whatever reason, if you're not feeling 100% this morning, maybe you haven't had breakfast, your blood sugar is a little bit low, maybe you've been given a new course of medicine, or your prescription strengths have changed, so your prescriptions are sort of knocking things out of whack. If that's the case, if you feel a little dehydrated, whatever, you may want to do one of two things. Either have the chair behind you as you're standing. So if you start to feel a little bit wonky, all you have to do is drop your butt down in the chair, and you're good to go. Now, sometimes it's a little bit funny in public classes because I'll mention that, and somebody will go to all that ish problem to get the chair, and then they'll stand away from it. So then they have to break meditation to backpedal back toward the chair, just right behind you. So all you have to do is sit. If you end up sitting, my feet are still going to be shoulder wide. My knees are still going to be open in that instance. So sorry, Miss Etiquette, we got to have the knees separated. Hands, though there are myriad positions for any seated meditation, we give you two, either palm down on tops of the thighs to the knees, depending upon your arm length, or cupped one over the other in the lap, palm up. The standing position, have the hands pressed toward the body, but sitting, you don't want to do that. That creates too much tension. And avoid chairs with arms because that'll raise your shoulders, your elbows and your shoulders. Notice still hips underneath torso, torso still underneath shoulders. Chest sunk, back rounded, chin from parallel, slight tuck down, crown point of the head held, not lifted to the heavens. What I want to make clear is I'm not collapsing back in the chair. It's almost as if I'm standing from the ground on up, from the butt on up. Now, I also want to point out that this should feel, our connection to the earth is not only through our feet, but also through the chair itself. It's as if when we sit, that the earth has raised a chair up for us. So we're sitting into the earth, not in a chair on the earth. So there's the seated portion. Standing, as I said, feet shoulder wide. And remember, our definition of shoulder width is where the drop of the shoulder is, should split the heel on that side in half. Same on the other side. Same instructions from the waist on up, but here we want the knees open, not folded and at 90 degrees. Perineum anchored toward the earth. Hips underneath torso, torso underneath shoulders. Chest sunk, back rounded, little opening underneath the arms. Hands, like seated, there are all sorts of different positions for the hands. We talk about one, and that's on the center line, on the acupuncture point for the Xia Dantian, which is on the center line, lower abdominal cavity, usually between the belly button and the pubic bone, but we talk about it being between the solar plexus and the pubic bone, more or less where you fold your elbow and where that hand comes into contact in that space on the lower abdomen on the center line. That's where you want your hand. Now, we did one of these yesterday for our peeps at Sachem Public Library. We do the Mondays at 10 a.m. And I neglected to mention, I talked about whichever hand feels like it belongs next to the body is for you the one that belongs there. But I neglected to mention that you can have an alignment of the centers of the palms, the Laogong points, on the center line. So both centers of both palms on the center line of the body. But you can also sort of embrace the chi, if you will, and have the right hand slightly to the right and the left hand slightly to the left. But I'm not interlocking the fingers. I'm not grabbing the belly. I'm just letting the arm, the hand settle into the body a little bit. You can cheat, maybe put your thumb in your belly button so you have that little hook. I tend to rest a finger on the waistline of my sweats, and I don't have to press, I don't have to grab, I just relax, and the weight of both hands and arms together holds that in place. So eyes open or closed, seated or standing, tip of the tongue, everybody, lightly touching the roof of the mouth. I meant to bring my phone with me, did I? Yes, I did. So we're going to do about 5 minutes. Nice cleansing breath. There can be a little bit of sound for the first one. And bring the focus of the mind to the acupuncture point for the Shung Dantian, the upper field of elixir. That acupuncture point is located in the lower center of the forehead, where the third eye would be in other energy modalities. And we allow that position, that focus, sort of shut a door, close a window between you and those things clamoring the loudest for your attention. If you're old enough to remember Welcome Back, Kotter, think of Horshack jumping up and down in the classroom. Me, oh me, pick me. A lot of times when we settle into a quietness, all of our thoughts are like that. If we close that door, we can still hear Horshack in the background, but he's a little muffled now. And that's the idea, just to create that little separation so we can accept at least a potential for quietness, for stillness. Some of us with that initial focus may actually find the quieting of the mind really settling in at that point. But that's not the goal, it's not the purpose. It's just the initial step. Once the door is shut, the window is closed, the voices of the thoughts slightly muffled, we drop the focus from the head to the belly, from the acupuncture point for the Shang Dantian to the acupuncture point to the Xia Dantian. It's the one on the belly, between the solar plexus and the pubic bone, closer to the latter than the former. Once the focus is there, we're actually in the meat of the meditation. We have 3 checkpoints. They are body, breath, and mind. For the body, we're settling into the structure. Allowing the earth to hold us up more than our own muscles. So gravity and structure in our feet, in our legs, in our body, or in our body through the chair. We are rooted, we are parts of the earth. And relaxed, utilizing just enough to hold ourselves up. That idea that a large truck were to drive by outside and rattle the townhouse enough to knock a piece of insulation that's above my head out of its structure and float down to my shoulder. If that piece of insulation landed on my shoulder or my head and I made no adjustment for the extra weight, it would cause me to collapse. The breath is in 3 parts itself. Deep, utilizing the diaphragm to carry the breath down deeper into the body cavity. Breath is relaxed. And a relaxed breath is a quiet breath, not forcing the breath to 100%, but breathing a comfortable amount. When we breathe in all we possibly can and exhale all we possibly can, we add tension to the breath. Tension adds sound. Sometimes there's tension over which we have no control. If we have a particular pulmonary issue, there can be sound. But the more relaxed other aspects of the breath are, the quieter the breath will become. And the third aspect of the breath is what makes this a Qigong-based meditation. It's the image breath, the breath of the mind, the breath of the imagination. It's as if when you exhale physically through the nose or the mouth, there's an exhalation from the belly that travels from the belly to the extremities, and on the physical inhalation through the nose or the mouth, there's an internal inhalation that draws the breath back from the extremities to the belly. As we breathe, relax, and release. Just a couple more breaths. Then you bring the consciousness back into the room. As you do that, if you're in the chair, you're actually done with meditation. If you're standing, however, the hands released from the belly, left to the left, right to the right. Little activation in the wrists so the palm is floating down. Arms are elongated, though. I'm not activating the shoulders, the elbows. Find your left foot. It's the left foot that moves. The right foot stays. His hands float up, out, away from the body, the vertical alignment, crown point of the head, base of the pelvic bowl, settles in over the ball of the right foot. The hands draw in, the left foot draws in, the hands press down. Pressing the heel down, a little rebound, either sitting down into the body or rising up out of it. And there's your meditation. So, between the camera angle and Facebook Live, I have a pretty small photo picture here. So we'll do the best we can with our little stab ball stretch. And remember, you don't necessarily need one of these stab balls. Stability ball, yoga ball, Swiss ball, whatever you want to call it. but that adds a little bit of weight. You will feel this. And even without that little bit of weight of the stab ball, if you use that, take that hand towel, roll it up lengthwise at its longest side, and then hold that straight out. That creates activation in the arms. You have gravity involved, and that'll create the same type of activation that you get if you use the stability ball. So honor your range of motion as always, right? So don't go too deep. Don't go, too much of an angle, especially with a little bit of extra weight. You can tweak something. Let's do a little shake to start with, just to get a little bit of extra blood and oxygen flowing before we start. There are only, I believe, 5 exercises, maybe 6. I have the order in my head. 5. So we're going to start with squats. Now, something about squats, you want to make sure the weight is going to your heels, that as you set down, chest and eyes up, and weight to the heels, and toes and knees going the same direction. So if I'm a little bit more open in the quad, I might have my toes out a little bit. So as I squat, my knees will go out. I tend to do, even in this position, and though I am pretty flexible in the quad, I like to keep my feet parallel. So that means my knees are going to need to be parallel. So you take the stab ball or the towel. You want the feet about shoulder wide, maybe a little bit wider. You start with it down. Now, when you go down, inhale, and then exhale, coming up, right? And we're going to do 10 of these. And as you squat, you raise the ball up. So we're going to start in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And there's 1, and up. 2, and up. 3, and up. 4, and up. 5, and up. 6, and up. 7, and up. 8, and up. 9, and up. And 10, and up. So just to give you an idea, you have the towel, and there you go, and up. And if you happen not to have either of those items, you can still do all of these with just extended arms. So there's your squat. I want to do back step lunges next. We're going to be doing the same thing with the arms, with the towel or the stab ball. When you do a lunge, you want to make sure that your knee is over your ankle. You don't want to do a lunge and have your knee all the way out there. You want the knee over the ankle. Now, these are bent leg, back leg lunges. So same thing, you want your chest and eyes up. We switch back and forth between the two sides. So we're going to step back with the ball up and come up. We're going to switch to the other side and up. 10 total. So that's 5 per side. Settling in. Inhale as we, as I was going to say squat, as we lunge. And again, it's a back step lunge. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. And there's your back step lunges. So we've done squats. We've done the back step lunge. We're going to do side-to-side twist next. It's a twist and pivot. So you need to move your feet as you twist. Now notice, as I'm doing this, I'm keeping my eyes forward, and I'm not doing that just so you can see my face. We need to do that as we hold the ball. We're going to do 10 pairs of the twist and pivot. So fairly wide feet here, beyond shoulder width. Here's your extension. Bye. Turn. There's 1. Here's 2. There's 3. There's 4. There's 5. There's 6. There's 7. There's 8. There's 9. There's 10. So twist and pivot. Again, were you to use a towel, notice that back heel up off the ground. Or keep the arms active as you move there. You're going to also do a palm in closer with that twist and pivot, or like you're holding a ball, and do that, and do the twist and pivot if you don't have the towel or the stability ball. So side stretches are next. Now, check the height between your hands and the ceiling. I've got a fairly high ceiling in my training space. But if you don't, you can kneel and do your side stretches, right? So I might do that so we can keep our eye on the ball, but this is what it would look like were I to be standing. And we're going to do 10 total, so back and forth between the two sides. Each side count is a repetition. So I'll do the main round here, I think, with the towel, just for the difference. Let me roll it up here. In all my wisdom, I unrolled it. Up out of the shoulders, right? Not raising the shoulders. I'm lifting up out of the shoulders. And there's 1, and hold. And up, 2, and hold. Note eyes, head forward, not collapsing into the side of my head, and up. 3, and up. 4, and up. 5, and up. 6, and up. 7, straightest arms ever, and up. 8, not this, this, and up. 9, and up. And 10. Let's hold it. 3, 2, 1. And boom. And there's your side stretches. With the stability ball, that would look like this. I'm glad I am far away from the microphone because I sound a little bit like Rice Krispies this morning. And I've even already taught a class, a remote one. So the last is a diagonal lift. We're going to do 5 per side. The feet are really, really active here, and they have to be to protect the knees. So when I go down and the feet are, again, pretty wide, I'm turning. The direction I'm turning, I'm pivoting. So my toes are going that direction, and I'm bringing up the opposite heel, pivot, pivot, up across. That was 1. This is 2. We're going to do the 2 sides. I didn't do a very good job mapping out the space that I was going to need for this morning, so I have to move my fan. That's why I was adjusting things. as we were doing the twist and pivot because I was whacking the fan. And I don't have many fans, so, I can't afford to whack any of them. I'm sure nobody in my public classes really missed my sense of humor. So, diagonal lift. Stability ball, towel, nothing. I'm going to move my tea bottle too. So, we're going to start down and start in 3, 2, 1. Pivot, pivot, lift. Pivot, pivot, back down. There's 1. Here's 2. Here's 3. Here's 4. Here's 5. Go back down, go to the other side. There's 1. Oh, lost my balance. There's 2. Here, notice, I'm not keeping my eyes forward. There's 3. There's 4. And there's 5. So, just to give you an idea, here's the towel. Down, up, down. And notice, I'm not doing this, moving into sort of a pseudo lunge, and up, or with nothing at all. So there you have it. Stab ball series of warm-ups. And there ain't a lot to them, but you'll notice I got a little breath going here. But again, you have your squats, you have your step back lunges, you have your twists and pivots, you have your wide leg side stretch, and you have your twist and lift, or simply twist lift. So, don't worry, next week we'll be back to something that's a little bit more specific to a Tai Chi theme. I think what I have slated for my Sachem folk on Monday and everybody else is a little space adjustment, awareness. In other words, how to play your walking exercise, your form in a space in which it doesn't really fit. And then I think for next Tuesday, a week from today, we're going to be playing another variety is the spice of Tai Chi exercise. And I'll let that one be a surprise. So thanks. As always, if you have questions, observations, feel free to use the comment section. If you have some thoughts about what you'd want to see in the weeks ahead as we continue to be alone together in this time, more than willing to to take suggestions and can give them proper consideration. And let's stay this way alone together until medical experts tell us otherwise. So be safe, be aware, be calm, and be well. Wash your hands. And remember, you can use Fear is a Mind Killer from Frank Herbert's Dune. If you have another piece of poetry that you like, a piece of poetry that's not really poetry, if you have a piece of poetry that you like, some of Emily Dickinson's sonnets, for instance, fit within the 20-second time frame. So there you have it, our live session for West Babylon on Tuesday, April 7th in 2020. See you next time.